Hey friends, and welcome to Mom Talk Maryland. I'm your host, Claire Duarte, founder of the Columbia Mom, and this is your spot for real conversations, local love, and a whole lot of community. Whether you're folding laundry, running errands, or hiding in your car for some peace and quiet, let's dive in. You ready?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right, here we go.
Oh my gosh, I am so excited to have you on Mom Talk Maryland today. It's been such a journey, right?
Yes.
I mean, I first met you, gosh, was it May or June?
I think it was like early summer.
Early summer, right? So, without further ado, I have Beth Snow of Brain Balance. And before we jump into my whole side of it, can you tell us more about yourself, what Brain Balance is, and let me not get too carried away. Let's start with those two questions first.
Perfect. So thank you so much for having me. I am a lifelong educator. I started teaching at a private school when I was 21, right out of Towson. It used to be called Towson State then. And then I was teaching first grade, and somehow I was like a magnet for the kids that were struggling. I'm not sure why, but they just found their way to me. And so I decided to get my master's in education from Hopkins with a specialization in reading. So from there, I started working at Genesee School, which is a school for those that are struggling with language-based differences. And that was really such a joyful place to work and just work with neurodiverse individuals. Almost always these kids had ADHD, and school was not their favorite thing. But I started really being interested in helping, those with neurodiverse differences just be their best. So I also became a full-time yoga teacher. I really believed in integrative movement, and then COVID happened, and I was moved online and was teaching yoga online, and then just helping kids that were digital learning. Yeah. So remote, because they're at home and their parents are like, oh, this is how they learn.
Right.
So that was...
Yeah, the rubber hit the road, or crashed into the road, really.
Yes. So I was doing executive function and sort of school support online. And then my partner, Chris, was interested in doing something in my field. He came from a business background. So we found our way to Brain Balance, which would be a way for us to work together and for me to be able to hopefully help more people. Yeah. So that's how I found my way to Brain Balance. And Brain Balance is a non-medical multimodal approach to brain health. And that's sort of a mouthful, but basically it's a multisensory way to help the brain be its best. And no diagnosis is required because everybody's brain can be a little bit more efficient, a little bit more functioning in its best way, so you can find your fullest potential. And for me, that meant movement. And just being able to integrate mind and body. So in a way, being able to help young people reach that sort of mind-body connection early was really important to me. And that's what Brain Balance does in many ways. And I've already seen the changes in people. Oh my
gosh, literally. So wait, when did you guys first actually start? Because then you had your build out, and now you have your official home, your official location here in Columbia.
Yeah, so this has been a long journey. Right. It's been almost 2 years to bring Brain Balance to Maryland. Yeah. We are the first Brain Balance in this state, which is really exciting. There are many Brain Balances all over the country. Yeah. But this area for us was important because we both grew up here. Yeah. And we decided on Columbia because of its central location between DC and Baltimore. Yeah. And for me teaching, in the Baltimore schools, I had a network of parents, but also people that would perhaps want to work in this field. So we landed on Columbia. I love Columbia so much. Yes. It's such a great, it's such an inclusive and diverse space and community based. Yeah. And already just feeling that with our brain balance families has been amazing. And you've been an amazing part of that, helping us, meet parents, meet families, meet other professionals in our field. So it's the perfect place for us, for sure.
Literally. We're so happy that you're here. And, again, it's funny because Jill, who works for me, was the one that kind of heard the murmurs of brain balance coming or opening, and she was the one that was kind of passing along to me. So when we initially toured and came to visit space, I was just excited to kind of check out a new business, and obviously I was like, okay, this sounds like this would be great to kind of get in front of parents. And then as soon as literally you're touring us around, and Jill and I were basically on the verge of tears because we're like, oh my God, our kids need this. Because Jill also has a child that has gone through a lot, and same with my son, and and we couldn't have met you at literally the more perfect time. Actually, no, the better time would have been maybe 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But very pivotal time in my son's life. But so tell us, for those that obviously aren't as familiar, especially if you haven't seen some of the content that we've already been creating, tell us, you've already kind of said what brain balance is, but tell how does a program work and what does that look like?
Yeah, so the program is based in development and functioning. So our first step is working with the individual. And again, we work with kids, teens, and adults.
Yeah.
And we start with a discovery visit. And at this time, we're really looking at all areas of functioning, especially looking at development and just looking at primitive reflexes, and then sensory integration or sensory processing, a lot with the visual system, and then motor skills for sure. And then sort of above that is rhythm and timing and coordination. So all of if you think of a pyramid, all of those things are built upon foundations of development. So often there's immaturity in development. Yeah. So the discovery visit helps us figure out, we know brain balance can help, but in what ways?
Right.
And it's very specific to that individual.
Yes.
So there may be symptoms presenting. That could be trouble with communication, focus and attention, emotional regulation, sometimes just being able to not be overstimulated with the sensory piece. So those symptoms are why people come to us.
Yeah.
And it's either calls from parents or calls from teachers to parents or just home dynamic. And so when they come to us, we're able to outline, okay, here's the areas that the brain is immature, and this is the program that's built for that individual, and is not ever the same. Yeah. Because each brain is a gift to unwrap, and each person is unique, right?
Yes.
So the program is built upon this foundation, and then once we have the plan, we have a length of program. So the minimum is 48 sessions. That's because it takes some time to get used to being in the center, used to we wear sensory gear, all of that, as you've probably experienced. Transitions, that kind of thing, new people, new place. So we cannot just be in and out.
Right.
But at the same time, we don't want these kids in brain balance forever.
No,
it's a very intense, customized program to rebalance and reset so that they can go on their way.
Yes.
And have things come a little bit more easily and smooth their path a bit. Yeah. So they can handle the conditions of school, of life, of uncovering their gifts. Yeah. So that's kind of how we get there. Yeah. And then in session, each hour session, they're working on all of these areas that we've outlined for them using leveling. And they do about 30 exercises in 1 hour.
Right.
As you know.
Yes.
So we keep them moving.
Yes.
They're wearing the sensory gear. Sensory motor is the main focus. And then cognitive work. Yeah. So just being in the room and following directions and being able to adapt is changing the brain already. Right. So one step in the room, we're changing the brain.
Yes. Literally. Well, and if I could kind of jump in, and you can correct me too, but one thing, This is why I'm so excited. We get to have you on the podcast multiple times, because there's no way we're going to fit in everything.
Yeah, and
today.
I just said a lot of words. So.
I know. It's like a lot to digest. I mean, please know that you can obviously defer to Beth as the expert here. You can also ask me questions from just our personal experience as well, from the parent side. I mean, Beth, you obviously are a parent too, but yeah, we're always here for any questions, generally about the program. I'm literally still asking you questions all the time. So, but to kind of when we first met and we had our discovery visit and then the assessment, you gave me one of Dr. Melillo's books.
Yes.
And I hadn't heard about it, but I remember I texted a girlfriend of mine who also has a full background in education, master's in special education, has family members, blah, blah, blah. So I immediately texted her because I was like, okay, she knows this world. Not out of skepticism. It was just kind of more of like, hey, have you heard of this? And she was like, oh my God, Dr. Melillo's like a genius. That book has been on my list. And that kind of like gave me that, like, if she co-signs on it, great. You know what I mean? And not that I needed that, but I was just kind of curious to know about this world, right, a little bit more. And as I was reading his book and learning a little bit more about primitive reflexes, because again, this isn't my world, and I'm, the way that I sometimes explain it to parents when they're asking me about it, again, I will never achieve it as eloquently as you do, but I kind of go back to the book because he talks about, again, the primitive reflexes, and that if those primitive reflexes are still present after the age of 1 or not integrated, that can cause neurological and developmental challenges. And that's fact. That's not proprietary research to brain balance or Dr. Melillo. That has been studied. That is factual, right? And so it was interesting reading that, because I know that PTs look at that, educators look at that. But then, I realized he himself was interested so specifically in that, and hence created this program to help integrate these. So when we sat down and you're explaining all of this, and then when we tested Grant and then went over the things, that's when my brain was like woken up, because I was just like, we have never looked at this before, and never would I have thought to look at it from this angle, right? And I know in general it is newer research in the educational world, but as a parent that's going through a lot of this, I'm like, it's not even out of desperation. It's like, I know my child needs help, and this, like, again, very holistic, very integrative approach. I was just like, this is quite literally the answer that we never knew we needed. And so we need to kind of fast forward, like when we went over the assessment results, and Grant was like, tested like severe high for like 9 out of 11 or 9 out of 10, what, the exact number, reflexes. I was just like, oh my God, like it just makes sense given everything that we've gone through. And so again, when I'm explaining it to parents, I kind of say the same thing. It's, we're targeting that. And then the other thing that Dr. Melillo was talking about is the importance of movement, which is obviously what you guys do. And this is just sharing my personal experience. I remember when I was reading that at first, I was like, well, that's confusing and challenging when I look at Grant specifically. When you look at, obviously one kid, because every kid's different. I was like, well, Grant was the kid as a baby. He hit all of his milestones early. And I was like, and he was a mover. He wasn't like a potato on the ground, you know what I mean? He wasn't lacking movement. He was, rolled over and crawling, between 3 and 4 months, and sitting by 5 months, and the same day that he sat upright, pulled to stand, and was walking by 10 months, right? And then I also have, so then I'm like, well, that's weird, because he talks about the importance of movement and that being able to help the brain kind of form those connections. So I was like, well, why isn't that the case when I have also friends that also had kids that were early walkers that don't, right? Or then the vice versa of the friends that their babies were in OT because they weren't walking until like 16 months, right? And the reality is, so like, well, how does that line up? And again, it just, we all know that there's genetic predispositions to some of these things, and and that literally every kid is different. And actually, and I remember one thing that I had asked you about, because didn't realize this initially for Grant is that he was, yes, diagnosed with developmental delay and a speech delay at 2.5 years old. But, and I'm kicking myself for, not that I'm not kicking myself for getting testing any earlier, because to me that can kind of go here or there at this point, but his fine motor deficit.
Yeah.
And you kind of painted this picture. She was like, sometimes that fine motor deficit can look different, right?
Yeah.
And it can look like the gross motor, which kind of makes sense. He naturally has an aptitude for gross motor, naturally.
Yes.
He's interested in it. He loves it. He excels in it, clearly. And so it just naturally overshadowed the deficits, but in that area. So we kind of like, we knew we had two pieces that were challenging, but we never kind of fully realized the fine motor challenge until we kind of started to see it as he was getting into school.
Right.
So anyways, it's just seeing all of those pieces come together has really opened my eyes to the power of that. Because again, my kid is a very, very active kid, but and like I said, has been moving, but it's moving in these ways that help integrate the brain.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, the way you described it, of course, these kids a lot of times have a lot of strengths and they appear to have it all together in some ways, but then in other ways they could be immature. And so when you have that disconnect, often it affects their confidence and their willingness to take on new things.
Yeah.
Because they're so talented or advanced in many ways.
Right.
And then when you have this underdevelopment or immaturity, it just starts to work on them a bit. And we usually see that, when they start school.
Yeah.
Because there's naturally many different brains in a classroom.
Oh, for sure.
And so you'll see, all different types that are like super active, but maybe don't raise their hand.
Yeah.
Or you have kids that are super fidgety and are calling out all the time. So there's lots of ways that we can see the imbalance.
Oh, yeah.
And again, all of us can create more ease, more balance, more equilibrium so that we can be our best.
Yeah.
And as adults, we kind of figure that out. Right? Like we figure out ways that help us reset, rebalance, and then everything seems a little bit more manageable.
Yeah.
But for kids, it's just what's on the inside, the root causes, which you kind of talked about. The root causes are what we're interested in because we cannot see them.
No.
We look at the visual system a lot.
Right.
Because how kids and all of us take in information through our visual system can affect our equilibrium, can affect our processing, can social cues, lots of things that are happening through our visual system. And so we really look into that and we give them practice with just all of their senses.
Right.
And helping organize that so that they can communicate, so that they can be in the world, so that they can have friends and they can separate from mom, all of that.
Yeah.
So great points.
I know. And what was the other thing I was going to say about, it was just on the tip of my tongue. And to kind of paint Grant's picture again a little bit, like I said, we're with infants and toddlers. Around 7 months, he started to babble, and then it started to kind of go away. At the time at 7 months old, we had found out he had a peanut allergy and started the OIT treatment at the same time. Again, I don't believe association equals correlation. I think
100%.
But just orally, clearly a lot was going on for him, given the allergy and the treatment. And again, the other reality is, that's a newer treatment, and there's no way to know that there's. And anyways, there's a lot going on for him at that age.
Right.
And so we eventually got connected with infants and toddlers closer to around 14 months, because he only had one word, 1 to 5. I don't know if he had 1 to 5. I think if it was, anyways. And then by 2.5, that's when you get tested. And that's when we found out they had a developmental delay. We did the rec program with the county, and he then did pre-K, and now he's in kindergarten. And it's definitely been an evolution. And last year, when we tried to put him at my daughter's school, we reinstated his IEP, and we brought in PALS, and the IEP team basically realized that he needed more support, and that's when we brought him back to the county to have more in-house supports. And at that time, I was just like, you know what? I was like, I know he's going to get a little bit more support in the county, but I was like, screw it. Like, I'm just going to try to do everything I can for this kid. And, so we signed him up for speech therapy and OT, and even doing some pelvic floor therapy. And it's been a lot. So it's been a lot this year. And, a lot of emotions for, my household, my husband and I know that there's so many parents that feel, and this was the point that I was going to say. It was like saving me that when I'm talking to some of my other parents or things like that, I just feel like Grant to me is the kid that I feel like is the poster child of the kid that will fall through the cracks because he, even though we haven't sought out formal testing yet, I'm sure at some point we will, he doesn't have a direct diagnosis at this time, and he can kind of float along enough to get by, right? Like his social skills have improved enough that he can kind of be in a social setting and it works. He can now detach better, right? He can be in a classroom because he definitely likes routine and is a rule follower and a people pleaser. But, those are all such surface level things that, last year as I kind of was like starting to see this evolve, it kind of made me a little terrified because I was just like, how am I going to help this kid succeed? I was like, and so anyway, so that's when in finding out this program, I was just like so kind of, especially after doing kind of like there's all of these modalities are helpful.
Correct.
That's this is not pinpointing one or versus the other. I think I just personally felt so relieved because while those things were helpful for him, we were still struggling.
Yes.
And that's the point. Like, like for instance, when we finished speech, when we got to the end of it, they were like, he doesn't meet the criteria for a language disorder or any real actual language deficits. And OT could still recognize a fine motor deficit, but again, not strong enough for like a clear. So that's what I mean by like he can easily fall through the cracks. Because at that point, I was kind of like, well, what do I do? And like, there's the school, right? The school is still helping, but he's 4 and 5, and like these are such crucial years that I'm like, okay, well, like, do I just sit here and pray that he'll catch up on his own, and that's and it's fine, and that can, and it was just still terrifying to me. But now kind of fast forward, Grant started Brain Balance in like July, and even then, I was nervous because I was worried about us being able to have the consistency because it's summertime and we had vacations and I was like basically gone half of August. But I'm so glad we did because just like you said, we were able to, because I know my kid, he struggles with transition. He's way better this year than he was prior, but he struggles with transitions and on all of that. So we were able to at least get him adapted to going and doing all the exercises, and we have so many, and actually just edited another beautiful video that was actually from like August time, and where you can hear him like literally saying this is hard, and I bet you now when he does that same exercise, like not a single problem, so anyway, so it was good that even if like we felt like we couldn't nail the consistency the way that we wanted to, we were like, I think if we can just get him in there, get him used to everything, acclimated, so when school starts, we've at least gotten a little something.
Yes.
And it has, and literally since then, I think the summertime progress was probably a little bit slower for a couple of reasons, but because the kid's getting acclimated, I'm not going to expect, like, nothing is linear,
for sure.
But I just feel like the waves since then, it's just... It's sometimes even hard to put into words, there's so many, like I said, and that's what I think is so cool about this program is because I'm seeing like success in several areas, not just language, not just fine motor, or in our case, like some potty things here and there, you know what I mean? Like, and social emotional, like, you know, one thing that I think is like the coolest thing that was not happening this summer, obviously he wasn't in school, but he still wasn't really giving us a lot of feedback, is historically for 2 years, whenever my husband and I asked Grant about like, hey, how was school? What did you do today? He would always shut down. No, I don't want to talk about it. Like, or leave me alone. I need a minute, blah, blah, blah. And he would never voluntarily give information. Or the other option is like you would ask him a question because he struggles with Q&A and W questions, that if you ask him something, he would respond inappropriately, meaning his answer is not related to the question. Like, you know, they're like, oh, my favorite color is blue. You know what I mean? And now, he voluntarily is telling us about his day, unprompted. He's telling us about classmates at school, what he did today. The thing this week is like, Mom, next week is going to be October. This week is the end of September, so we're going to flip over the like. I was like, I know that he knows like what months are and days are, but he just like
a marker in time,
literally no, and is voluntarily giving me that information. Whereas like literally even 6 months ago, just trying to. And I know that's why his teacher struggled, right? Because they're trying to assess him. They're like we know he's smart, but to retrieve it is very challenging. And it's just been so awesome to see.
Oh, that's amazing.
I know.
Yeah, and it's great to hear the transition to school has been successful, because often that can be really a hard time.
Oh yeah.
You know, leaving summertime, leaving schedules and new people, new surroundings. And I think that you did such a great job getting him there in August, even though there was, you know, some time away from brain balance. Like when he comes back, he can get right back into it because he does like routine. Yeah. And that set him up for following directions, you know, being with other kids, other adults, other coaches. And you know, multi-step communication. And then when he got to school, he kind of like already had some confidence built. Yeah. And so that he did not feel like he was behind or different or whatever it is. Like he's taking it on. Right. And so I do think that part of that was your commitment to getting him there and doing some of the program and just allowing him space and time to get used to a new program. And literally we've seen his brain change in a short amount of time. And some of the things that you were talking about, like symptom-based approaches, for sure, they're going to serve the individual. But it takes longer. And so the integrative approach, it makes sense because dynamic tasks like school, think about older kids driving, there's lots of things, dynamic tasks
they're
that
using
the brain
more than just
correct. Like think about in a classroom, they have to be using auditory processing. They have to use their visual system. They have to use the language area of the brain. They have to use motor. All of those things together are demanding. So at Brain Balance, we're trying to find a challenge point and then find another, and then find a challenge point and then find another. And what that does is it builds stamina. So you've seen already Grant having more stamina. And you can't even put that's like an intangible. And to be able to see the ripple effect of that, like in your family, in his reports from school. I mean, that's so amazing. And but also give yourself credit for getting him there. And committing, you know, I mean, you have, and he has embraced the routine because you set that up as an expectation and a commitment is 100% a joint commitment. It is the family and Brain Balance and my team committed to each individual, because that is the only way you make progress. And the nutrition piece too, added in, is this wraparound. And you know, that's what we're interested in. And it's great to see and hear. And I've even witnessed it with your little guy being able to hold conversations, to be interacting with his other Brain Balance friends, you know, work with many different coaches.
I was going to say adjusted the coaches because we saw that early on. And now it's funny because he's even had a few new coaches recently that, like, he just
rolls right with it now.
Yes.
Yeah.
And imagine that can be used, that can be, transferred to school.
These are literally life skills. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
What's funny, I was just thinking of an example of last year with Grant being pre-K, and when they're in the county, they're always talking about, obviously we're doing the IEP review, and I remember they were asking if we wanted him to be a bus rider. And we've debated that in our household. But again, back in like the spring, we were like, Grant has historically struggled with self-advocacy. That was a problem last year because he would kind of he was not mute, but he wouldn't really talk a lot because he didn't have confidence in, I don't want to say his speaking, but I think being able to get his needs met and communicated effectively, because I know that, for instance, he still was struggling with retrieval and processing. So which that meant, I just remember talking through that. We were like, he couldn't just be a regular bus rider. He would have, which he did qualify for, essentially the assisted, which would be the smaller bus and things like that. And even that was nerve-wracking because I was like, well, I know how he does with transitions. I was like, even if he qualifies, I was like, I don't know that he's going to even get on that bus. That's great. He would qualify, but because from their standpoint, they were like, we don't, not trust isn't the wrong word. We don't feel that Grant could be able to say, hey, I need to get on my bus, or my bus is blank. You know what I mean? Which they were right. They were very right, and it's wild to see the growth in which he's had to even now, and then when you're talking about family, I didn't just do this just because of you coming here today. You'll laugh. I have a little spot of peppermint right here. And maybe that will have to be one of our future podcasts, talking about how we as more parents and things like that, because that is kind of the olfactory sense that you guys integrate and use. I mean, and peppermint has been known to show that. So that's one thing that's a stimulating sense for Grant.
And alertness.
Yes. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do that a little bit. And I really like it. And I can still kind of smell it. And, but you're right. It is you're absolutely right about how, we knew that we had to commit to this. And admittedly, I was even a little nerve-wracked to do it, because just committing to the 1 to 2 sessions a week that we were doing at the other program at the beginning of the year was a lot for our family. Granted, we were also kind of, I don't want to say we were in a bad mindset, but we were feeling a little downtrodden. So we probably how all that was painted in our minds a little bit.
Sure.
So we're like, how do we go from that to now X number of sessions a week? And it's funny because now it feels like it's just part of our lives. This is part of our lives. He looks forward to going to it. It just feels like part of our routine. And obviously I know that comes from my perception of it and the way that I've built it into our family, and so he naturally, was able to acclimate in that way. It's, and initially, like I said, those first, yes, we were traveling and struggle with little consistency with being able to come, but I think I was so mentally prepared for that slower progress, especially for a long program because of what we were used to. But it was kind of where it's slow, and then it kind of starts to explode. And I'm not, this is, I don't know what the data shows for all your kids, because every kid is different and it's going to look different. But for my child, that has been our experience, and it's beautifully correlated with the start of school, and it's just been so beautiful to witness.
And I think, just to add on, I talk to parents a lot, people that are interested in doing the program, but in general, just parents. I'm on the phone with them. I'm, meeting, just through the community. And, often I'm trying to help them see or just realize that it's never a good time, right?
No,
There's a lot, life happens.
Right.
But at the same time, if nothing changes, nothing changes.
Right.
And sometimes doing something and brain balance and maybe pausing or just taking a break for the child too, because sometimes they're doing so many things.
Right.
And so if they're doing brain balance, it's incorporating so many different parts of them that it brings all of that together for them. So of course, there's going to be some balance, literally, and some integration, and that has many effects on your nervous system, communication. So, families and parents want to hear that there is hope, right? And all the things that they're doing, these kids are carted around so many different places to many symptom-based approaches, or they're given a report or an eval and they're said to do all of these different things.
Right.
And it's cobbled together, and it works, but it takes a long time.
It does take a long time. And I think that's part of how we were feeling. Yeah. Right? We're going from this
and
to
then you're
this
like,
to
it's
this.
one more thing. You're like,
that's how it felt.
Yeah, and I remember you saying that. You were like, we've already done all of these things, and now this is another thing, and I need to come 3 times a week. Like, you were very honest about that. And as parents, they're like, I can't do one more thing. I can't drive. I can't cart the sibling around, and we understand that. Yeah. And we work with families a lot on scheduling. We're super flexible on that. But we're also like, if, you're investing in this, you're investing in your child, and we know if you get them here, they're going to change their brain. Yeah. And so we're going to help you every step of the way. And we know it's a lot, and we really try to wrap around the family. I mean, I'm super accessible. I love talking to parents about, even if they're stuck, right? Yeah. Like if a child has coming to brain balance and they're all of a sudden plateauing or having a stuck point, like we're involved in that. Yeah. Or if a behavior starts to pop up, right? Because we're making change. Yeah. We are right there with them. In fact, if we see behavior, we're encouraged by that, because it means we're making some change here. Right. And we talked about that with Grant. And you guys actually said that from the jump. They're like, don't be surprised if we kind of like that grittiness, right? And it's not fair. I did mention this progress was slow and then shot up. Yeah. If you zoomed in, it would still look like this. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like that's the reality. Yeah. And of course, like it's not linear for sure. And development is not linear. No. But when the trajectory goes off course, and that is kind of what we're looking for. If these gaps become bigger and more widespread or more global, then things start to catch up to them. And often, we'll see teenagers that maybe have held it together or blended in or been through the cracks, and then all of a sudden they want to drive, they want to be independent, they want to go to college, but everything is just not super mature, even though they have many gifts to offer. But we need to bring the gaps a little closer. We're not going to close every gap. No. But we're going to hopefully help them be in more balance, literally, in more equilibrium, so they can be their best. Right. Oh my gosh. And now I want to ask you this, because I brought it to you too, because beginning of the school year, we had the kids annual doctor's appointments, and I hadn't actually seen my specific pediatrician. I mean, we've had our annuals, but sometimes they rotate in the practice, and so I was catching her up on. I was like, we had okay, here's Brooke, Grant, how much time do you have, right? And catching her up on a lot of things, Grant, right? And you already said that in brain balance, you don't have to have a diagnosis, right? And what do you say to parents about that are like, should I be getting my kid tested? Like, how do you help parents? I mean, again, I'll speak to what you told me, because for my kid, that's kind of what made sense for me. But how do you help kind of parents sort of navigate that world? Yeah, so we are not we're not medical. We're not diagnosing for sure. Right. What we are meeting these kids with fresh eyes. Yeah. Whether they have a diagnosis or not. If there's a parent who is working with us and we've been with their child a lot and we've seen them in different situations, and they come to me and say, you know what, we need some more information on how this child learns or what their communication is, then I would say, yes, like here are some of my, people in my network, or here's some people that I can recommend if you would like more information.
Right.
Sometimes more information can serve the child for getting services.
Right. I was going to say, like, that can exactly directly impact.
And that's okay too. But also sometimes when there's more information, it can bog down the family. But of course, getting more information, some families want that.
Yeah.
And if they come to me and they have an evaluation, but they don't want to share it with me, that's okay. Because again, I'm seeing them with fresh eyes and I'm going to see how they're functioning.
Yeah.
And in this way, I can figure out how we can help.
Yeah.
And same thing, with an eval, a lot of times they're given many different paths and maybe there's a waiting list.
Right.
Maybe there's even a waiting list to get tested.
No, exactly.
And so, we're trying to understand how they are today.
Yeah.
And I want to meet them where they are, to take them where I know they can go and what their potential is.
Yeah.
So, but 100%, we have lots of neuropsychologists that we work with, and that I read a lot of reports.
Right. Oh, for sure. Yeah. And you guys will still take all of that information.
Absolutely.
I mean, I still give you guys Grant's life story.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's helpful.
Helpful in painting the picture.
And also, we work with other providers. So if a child has a therapist or another provider, then we work with them because, in fact, the therapy or whatever they're doing will work more efficiently.
Right. No, exactly. Because you want it to be collaborative, right?
Yeah. And also it's like pouring into a bucket, but if the bucket has holes in it, then the family is like, well, I'm doing all these things, right? So what Brain Balance is, we're trying to help solidify the bucket so that when you do add on therapies or services, that they work and they stick.
Right.
And then everyone has a better chance to have success. Behavior, we see a lot of behavior and behavior therapies or, just ways to work with behavior. We're working in tandem with Brain Balance because that way we know, okay, a behavior is a symptom.
Yeah.
What's going on under the surface?
Yes.
What's the root cause? Because behavior isn't just behavior.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, I'm kind of speaking of that, like, we're raising kids in a very different world. I know you can directly speak to that with your daughter, but, with more screen time, higher stress, less outdoor play, how are you seeing those things affect development and what can parents do to help?
Amazing question. So, one is motor drives cognition. The more motor a child has, that is, intentional, but also unstructured play, that's going to help cognition. So we want kids playing and we want them playing outside. We want them playing without structure, without even parents intervening, right? The more we can do that, the better our children will be performing.
Right.
Screen time, it is a challenge, especially for kids with neurodiverse presentations, because a lot of times it's calming for a child to be on a screen, or for behavior, it might be a reward, or it might be a way to work with non-preferred tasks, things like that. So the screen time with limitations is okay. Like, there's no way a parent is going to be like, no screens ever. That's really
We're
a challenge.
not here to villainize.
No, but we need to be intentional about it. And we need to be able to help the child know when it can be used and how it's a tool, not a toy.
Right.
And that, when we are engaging with a screen, it is changing our brain. And we have seen that with children, with teenagers.
Right.
So we need to understand that our children have every potential. They have every opportunity, but we need to be intentional about what we're putting in front of them.
Right.
And so that includes nutrition, things like that. Like, obviously it's in the news a lot, processed foods and things that we're adding in. But again, families are busy. They're just trying to get these kids nutrients.
I know.
And so it's just, as a mom, like, it's just fuel, right? But, and if also they're picky and they are rigid.
It can be so challenging.
Yeah.
Right.
So we are trying, we've seen that at Brain Balance. So we're trying to help families with the nutrition aspect.
Right.
So to go back to your question, yes, our kids' brains have changed, but it doesn't mean it has to stay like that.
Right.
And in fact, they're growing up in a digital age, and teaching them managing that is how we can serve them best.
Right.
And we can also take into account brain health now.
Right.
We don't want to wait until there's an issue necessarily.
Right.
And that goes for older people as well.
Oh, yeah.
Taking care of our brain is like taking care of your heart. And if we are doing that, then of course longevity is involved, but you're enjoying your life more.
Yeah.
And that is incorporating like all the different things in your, the 5 domains of brain health.
Yeah.
It's not just one thing.
Right. I want to be part of the pilot program that you roll out for parents and adults. There's the senior idea, right?
Yeah.
I want to be like the middle portion, right?
Yeah, we have an adult program, but actually I've been thinking about that, like parent-child, because the time I hear from parents on the phone, either it's one or both parents that are struggling with neurodiverse conditions or differences, and a lot of times they're diagnosed later. And then also they've been maybe on medication when they were younger, and they do not want their child to be on medication. Mm-hmm. So it's like they're looking at other ways to help.
Right, because we kind of want to walk the walk, and not just for modeling sake, but realizing just a little peppermint thing. I'm like, this isn't just about like helping him. I'm like, this is something that that can be helpful to all of us. I mean, I myself have been going through, again, and the nutrition piece is definitely an evolving thing, right? It's not like a black and white, you just and go into perfect nutrition. But, I found out that I had a thyroid issue. So I've also been slowly trying to, move away from less processed foods in the house in general, moving into a little bit more organic, just, doing that as much as we can. It's not going to be perfect, especially for our kids who love just all the little goodies and things, but monitoring that, right? And, and I think the word of the day, quite literally, it is balance when it comes to, say it's with nutrition, right? And same with the screen time, because you also don't, I feel like we don't want parents to know that it's not about once we start creating the all or nothing, like, oh my gosh, same thing with the activity, because I know that there are a lot of parents like, okay, well then I'm going to throw my kids into, tons of sports and activities. Like, it is literally about striking a balance. It's not serving our children to be running around to crazy activities all day, every day throughout the weekend, or starving them from no screen time, because then, they are growing up in this digital age. Like we have to show them how we can create healthy relationships and boundaries with these things.
And they need practice.
Yeah.
And also, if you have kids that are rigid or they have cognitive inflexibility, once you start something and it becomes habitual, it's really hard to change.
Yes.
So that
we know this.
Yeah, we know this. But think about for adults too.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like if you're changing too many things at once, the chances are it's not going to happen. So all or nothing, you're right, it does not work.
No.
So how do we reach steps along the way? And again, like my word is intentional. How are we being intentional to reach balance?
Right.
And we're supporting families with that for sure. But again, they're little people who have what they want, preferred tasks, preferred foods, whatever it is.
Right.
And if they get stuck on that, then it's going to take a while. And like part of Brain Balance, actually, we hear a lot that a child will try something new, try to eat something new, because that's part of the brain executive function wise, like cognitive flexibility.
Oh, the cognitive, yes.
So if we're working on that from the inside out, we could tell the kid if they weren't doing Brain Balance or if they weren't quite ready, like, oh, just try it. Don't worry. Just try it. You'll like it. They're not going to do that.
Oh, not in any universe.
Yeah. And you'll just be like trying, right? Yeah. And because they're not ready for that executive function yet.
No.
They're immature.
Yeah.
So when we work on the things that are going on under the surface, all of a sudden we will get reports from families like, we were at the restaurant and they tried something new, or they ordered for themselves, or they chose what they wanted that was not always the same thing.
Right.
Like, that's huge. That's real life transference of what we're doing.
Yeah.
And that's so great to hear.
Yeah.
And it's encouraging for families, encouraging for us, because
Right.
we see what we see, but then when we get reports like that, is like, it's so meaningful.
I know. And I know that we got to wrap up here too, but I forgot about the cognitive flexibility piece too, because
Yeah.
I mean, literally, that's one of the big things that I had mentioned too during his discovery and assessment, because I was like, and that's, I think, one of the things that we were struggling with at the beginning of the year when we had wrapped speech and OT. We're like, we just feel like that piece, I could feel more, but I was just like, we're not being able to make movement in all these other areas because of a lot of this inflexibility and him shutting down, and it was affecting so many things. And I even told you, like, in almost like tears, that I was like, it's affecting our families. I feel like it's affecting my relationship with my daughter, because she sees that basically I feel like I have to give in to my son, even though my husband and I never created our family to like let our child rule the roost, but it's kind of like it ends up being easier to give in to him, because it just feels like, he puts his foot down and that's it. And it, like, anyway, so just the loosening of the inflexibility, or moving into flexibility, like that's been kind of like the sleeper. Like it's kind of, because it's kind of just very slowly, quietly happened, and it's like, it's kind of like loosened the reins on all the other things that he's doing. And you're right about like even the food and those pieces, and it's just, anyways, I know we got to wrap, because we could sit here and talk forever, but it's just, first of all, I mean, I have to thank you from the bottom of my heart for this opportunity for my son. It's just, if you keep following along, you'll see me. I'm actually, we're posting our next links update, because it's funny, when I started that, I was like, it was so easy to keep track, because things just felt, further in between. And now I can't keep track, because there's so many like little nuggets and pieces. But it's so, as a parent, the relief that I feel is life-changing. And I said to my friend, I was like, I feel like I have my son back. When I was like, that sounds bad. I never like lost my son, and it's not that I have the son that I always wanted. It's just I'm getting a even better version of him, and to see him, there's just this freeness that's coming out of him, and it's just like, it just feels unrestricted. Do you know? And that's anyways, that's the relief that I feel, the joy that I feel, that I'm like, okay, like I feel like he's going to be okay. Like I can see the change happening, and I'm so excited for this process.
Well, I mean, thank you for trusting us with your son, trusting the process, and knowing that he is in good hands, and that he, all the time, we know that kids can be held in a box, and if we continue to do that, they can't reach their fullest potential. But if you give them opportunities and practice to be in new situations, change their brain, try new things, all of that is just bringing them further along. And as a parent, like you said, you felt relief, or you somehow found more ease. Like, that's the greatest gift.
Yes.
And it's so wonderful to hear that. I see it with my own eyes with Grant, which is so great. Like, just seeing him, I always say, like, not just survive, but thrive.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, that's huge.
And I have to cut myself off, but I was like, sir, like, you're so right, because I feel like for the longest time, like, or for literally years, we were, especially in the spring, we were surviving. We were like, we're just trying to get through. And there's so many parents that I know that are in this program that have been feeling that way, and that, if you're watching, listening, feeling the same way, I guess please reach out, Do you want to list like the best way for them to get started?
Sure. So I'm the director. We have a pretty strong presence on socials. So Brain Balance Baltimore on Instagram.
Yep.
And then Brain Balance of Greater Baltimore on Facebook. Our website is brainbalancebaltimore.com. And I usually answer the phone.
Yeah.
You can have a direct line to me. If you do have questions about brain balance, ask me. I know that parents want to do research, and that's fine too. Do some reading, but I really have perspective on how this program is working firsthand. And with my background, I'm able to kind of pull it together and also meet you where you are in the process and as a resource.
Yes.
So even if, even if your child does brain balance or not, like just come to me as a parent resource or, in the community to be supporting kids with neurodevelopmental differences.
Yes.
I'm so grateful for you. I feel like you really have helped bring Grant along, but also just help people learn about brain balance and just be in the conversation. And I think you're great and you do wonderful things for our community and for moms. And it's important that moms feel heard and they feel included. And because you guys, some of you have been through it. Almost
Oh my God.
I mean, if you're a mom, you've been through it.
You've been through it. Doesn't
In
matter.
some ways.
Exactly. I know.
So just having resource, being heard, having people to talk to, a community, and you're building that. So thank you for doing that. I'm really honored to be on this path with you.
Well, I'm so glad that you're part of our community. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Beth, and we look forward to having you next time.
Yeah, see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Mom Talk Maryland. If you loved it, leave a review, share it with a friend, or tag me at the.columbiamom on Instagram. I'd love to hear what you think. And don't forget to follow the show so you never miss an episode. Until next time, keep showing up, keep supporting local, and keep being the incredible mom, woman, human that you are.